Good evening. Dude79 here, just doing a quick mic check. We'll be live in just a moment to have a spoiler-free initial reaction to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
I'm really excited.
We're really hyped. See you in a few. Welcome to another edition of Banter and Babble Reacts. I guess I can't really say another edition. It's like the very first official initial reaction to a movie, right?
We done.
Yeah, but
sure?
Willie's Wonderland wasn't like, we didn't do it right there live, did we? Or like,
Did it right after.
Did we do it right? I am full of shit. This is actually number 2. This is the second B&B Quickie Reacts, or whatever you want to call it. We got to come up with an official name for this. I think initial reactions is kind of lame, but just B&B Reacts. Sounds hot, right?
It's a work in progress, but hello.
We just got home from the theater after seeing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And Tom, this is going to just be a brief initial reaction to what we just saw. It'll be spoiler-free. We're not going to talk about any major plot points. We're just going to talk about our overall impressions, some of the performances, and how we feel this sets up Phase 4, whether it successfully does so or if it stumbles along the way. But we'll just talk a little bit briefly about it next Wednesday night, or over on Twitch. We're on YouTube right now. On Twitch for an official episode of Banter Babble. We'll talk a little bit more in depth, give people a chance to go see it this weekend, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to, because this is like the first big screen official kickoff of Phase 4. I mean, if you want to talk about Disney Plus, that's totally fair. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But
Correct.
In terms of like the big screen, I'm not counting Black Widow. This is the first big screen debut of like Phase 4.
Absolutely.
The kickoff. It's official. We're doing Phase 4 now. Batone?
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. Lengthy movie, a little bit longer than I think we thought it would be, but let's talk about it, dude. Initial overall impressions of what we just saw.
So I'm going to preface clearly my impressions. I'll say it like this. I really enjoyed the movie. I had a lot of high hopes and expectations for certain things that might happen, and it did those things, and that was really exciting to me. I'm going to go back to the preface piece of that, and that is where I'm a big fan and grew up around old school style kung fu flicks. I'm talking like The Wire Work and things like that.
Right.
You can even say House of Flying Daggers, things like that, or Once Upon a Time in China, or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Clearly, and we got one of the cast members in this as well too. But I love that very awesome, amazing kung fu wire work. That
yes,
I love that stuff. And honestly, I know people were saying that the combat or the fight scenes or the choreography in this movie was going to move that bar for Marvel, and they weren't kidding.
No,
the fight scenes were intense. They were amazing. The one that you saw in the first trailer, the brief clip of the bus scene, was mind-blowing. But we'll get into a little bit, maybe some of the other pieces of that as well too. But as an initial thought, yes, I really enjoyed this movie. This made me really excited for what's to come as well too, and whether or not this sets up a lot into the next phase. I'd say there's definitely some breadcrumbs there, and it was done very well.
Yes,
as what you would expect from Marvel movies at this point.
Right. No, and just to kind of piggyback off what Tone was saying, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the action sequences, the choreographed fighting. I mean, it's a martial arts movie, and the quickest way to fuck that up is to have a lot of quick cuts. When it comes to martial arts, it's all about that flow of the combat. It's all about the flow. It has to be continuous. It has to be, in one shot. There's got to be a lot of like long, drawn out shots of combat, and they do a really good job with it in this movie. It's exciting. It's thrilling. I'm downloading the fucking soundtrack as soon as we're done with this. Because there were the bus sequences, obviously that's the one that we've seen in the trailer. That's like that's one of the main fights in the movie, and the music in it is very similar to what we would hear in a John Wick movie. And some of these fight sequences, I mean, there's still a lot of Eastern music playing in there that you're familiar with these types of movies, but it really ramps it up for the combat. And some of the fight scenes are really fucking dope. We won't get into any spoilers on the later fights because they're not shown too much in the trailer, but what you see on the bus does not do the rest of the movie justice.
Any
in terms
of the trailers,
of the combat. Yeah.
Just generally,
yeah. I mean, really, there's nothing in these trailers. And Crash, we want multiple members of the B&B community were at this movie tonight. It was a really, really good time. Crash was there. Tricky Regent was there. Prime Didac was there. We had Half-Ass Beer Review was there. It was a full house. We had a lot of folks there tonight, and it was a lot of fun. But we went into it, and Crash mentioned afterwards, the trailer for this movie, the trailers that we've seen, really undersells what you're getting.
Yeah.
A lot. And again, we'll be very careful what we talk about here, but the combat in this movie is fucking great. It's really, really good. It's well choreographed. Everyone does a great job, and a lot of the settings are very beautiful. Like that's what I like about a lot of these fight scenes. It's a beautiful setting. Set, that's the background to these fights, and they're just really well done. They're really exciting. They're intense, and that is definitely one of the strong suits. There's been a lot of talk about that leading up to a launch, from the premiere, and what we saw tonight, it's pretty much spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, overall impressions in terms of like the choreographed fights, the presentation, everything is aces. But again, yeah, like Crash mentioned, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, especially in the second half, that you might not be prepared for.
Right.
You might not be prepared for. Like what I think this movie does, and we'll talk a little bit about this right now, how this sets up Phase 4, is I think this movie is going to catch some people off guard.
Yeah.
You know, based on what we've seen in the previous movies up to this point, up to Endgame, there's been, you know, a certain feel to all the MCU movies. There's a certain, like, you know, this it's all samey. That's not the case here.
No.
There's some chances and risks that they take, and it pays off. I thought I knew what to expect from the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 4 is going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
And I am totally on board with that.
I definitely agree. And I think what some of the stuff we've been saying on the show normally too is, or at least I have, and I think there's other people, and you know, and again, I always keep putting my tinfoil hat on about things that keep getting set up, and this necessarily isn't fully part of some of that. However, it could be. There's definitely a couple post-credit scenes we might touch on briefly as well too, but really, without really saying anything too crazy, this just really leans into a lot of fantasy.
Yes,
and that,
very
and that's great, and like I think that we've all kind of said is that the first few phases were almost like the way I look at it, it's like putting having the baby in the car seat. Yeah. Now you're putting the baby in the front seat going like 85 miles per hour.
With no seatbelt on.
Fuck it. You know, and definitely they're going in a direction. I think again with those breadcrumbs, what they're setting up. There's definitely some setup with Phase 4. There's definitely the things that you want to see, what you're used to in the Marvel films, where there's some threading here and there, maybe some references or whatever that might be. But this does, yes, like you said, the second half of it completely just goes, and even like for me, like I expected certain things or wanted certain things. This literally went beyond that.
Yeah.
And like, I got to tell you, and for me, I was definitely like a lot in my hate. I'm watching, I'm like, this is fucking rad. Like, this is great.
There's a lot going on, and you know, and I could see some folks might come into this, and you know, there's always when movies ramp up the action, there's always that fear you're gonna get that Michael Bay feeling, like what the fuck is going on? And I feel like this movie really toes that line. Because like I said, the last half of the movie, when things start to happen, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and it's very fantastical, but it's really exciting. Like they towed the line perfectly right. I knew what the hell was going on, but it's definitely buckle up. It's definitely wild.
Yeah, fun stuff. Like it really just anything. It's fun. Like I'm just in awe watching the fight scenes in the first half, and the second half is just like roller coaster, no seatbelt, let's go. Yeah. Like, this is wild.
I feel like if you've been watching Disney Plus, if you watched WandaVision, if you watched Loki, you're going to be a little bit more prepared for this. I feel like you've seen enough in those shows where you're like, okay, I can see what Phase 4 is headed to. And when you think about what Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is heading towards, this will basically kind of set everything up for where the MCU is going in terms of its presentation. We actually see a little bit about that, a little bit of that in the Spider-Man trailer. There's a couple of scenes there where we're like, ooh, it's getting crazy. Yeah. Like that's what they're gonna do. And Prime made a good point. It's fun without being goofy. Like I feel like they really towed that line where it was entertaining, but you were never like, oh, okay, this is campy.
Well, you know, I mentioned, I suppose, maybe, is like, you know, not everybody likes the jokes in the Marvel films. Some people want the straight-laced kind of, you know, more comic-y, more serious undertones. As an anime fan, I like 90% of the serious, but I like that 10% of just like
gotta have some levity. You gotta have some levity.
Exactly, that just that goofy, like random, like humor. You're like, funny, you got a joke there. I like that shit. I know not everybody's sold to reference this.
It's all about timing, really. It's all about timing in the scene and where you're at in the movie. You know what's happening. It's all about timing and where you place that.
Right, and I know not everybody's always been sold on Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Definitely, Thor in the comics is way different. But you know what? Chris Hemsworth's Thor fits because Chris Hemsworth, the delivery is spot on. Yeah. So the MCU Thor is fun as fuck, and I love that shit. And this movie definitely had some really funny parts of it too, and it was really, in my opinion, really one character that was just like kept bringing the shit. I was having a blast with it.
Yeah, and you know, we'll talk a little bit about the performances now. Obviously, I believe it's Simu Liu He stars as Shang-Chi. He's the main the main protagonist, and I think he's really good in this movie. I think he is exceptional in this movie. There's a couple of great scenes with him where he gets to show some of his emotional acting chops. One in particular where he's talking to his friend Katie, who's played by Awkwafina, where he's coming to terms with what he's going to have to do. And there's a moment there that where you're just like, okay, this guy's really talented.
Yeah, we had some really like shocking, like actually all the characters, well, the main two had some really shocking range. I was like, okay, damn, like he's going here and then he's going here and then he's sitting in a bar telling the story and just acting like he's just a normal dude, like
Clark Kent. It was almost like a Clark Kent Superman thing going on.
Right. Yeah. So it was just kind of crazy how that worked out, and I was really really shocked by that. I didn't expect that. And I can see a movie like this, the jokes might throw people a little bit off that are big, like, martial arts fans or whatever that might be, but you got to go into it with that levity thinking and knowing that it's a Marvel movie, and just have a good time too.
We mentioned Awkwafina as Shang's friend Katie. She's actually pretty funny, but thankfully, what they do is at first you're thinking, okay, she's going to be kind of like the comic relief, and she does provide some of that, but she has a few good moments where she kind of
let that character grow.
Yep, she let that character grow, so that was really nice. But we got some really good performances from some of the older actors in the movie. Been around for a while. Obviously, Tony Chiwetel Leung, who plays Zhu Wenwu, he is Shang-Chi's father. He is really, really good in this movie.
Very good.
He's very complicated, and he does a great job with his performance. But I think you and I were both really, really happy with Michelle Yeoh.
Never, ever does she, and she just continues to just be. She fits in every role that she does. It's always this very like.
It's like this mentor,
the
maternal. She's always playing that maternal role.
She's so incredible. I love her so much, and it's just you stop and think. You always say, okay, now Sylvester Stallone's now part of the MCU, or Nathan Fillion's kind of part of the MCU, and all these different things. And now you've got Michelle Yeoh in there as well too, is technically part of the MCU. So that's really exciting. And again, I was really surprised.
And we mentioned these last two actors here. Obviously they're more parental figures in this movie, but they get to mix it up too. I mean, we get some good action from everybody. Everybody involved is given a nice balance of being allowing them to flex their acting chops, but then really flex their muscles as well in many fight scenes. So it's a really well done movie. It was entertaining from start to finish. My initial reaction is like, this is a really positive way to kick off Phase 4. I feel like it's a big-time improvement over Black Widow. I know there's some folks out there who really like Black Widow, and that's fine. But, in terms of, like, the MCU and Phase 4, this felt like the official start.
And let's not mistake the fact that a lot of people, when this is announced as kicking off for, like, the first movie and stuff, or even just generally announced, a lot of people were like, even myself, I'm like, I don't know a lot about Shang-Chi, but I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. It sounds like it's going to be probably something martial artists, and I know the 10 Rings are involved. Okay, cool, I'm down with that. Like, let's see where that's going. There's a lot of people out there like, the fuck? Like, like that sort of reaction. Like, they were surprised that they led with this. Well, guess what? Watch the fucking movie.
They do a really good job at taking, I don't want to say an obscure character, but more of a smaller, Marvel comic character, and they give him a really good platform, a really good first entry, and I'm down with it, man. Like, I really like this character. I really like the his abilities and what he stands for, and the complex nature of his origins as a child and everything that he's had to go through. It's a really, really just well done movie. Like, it's a great setup for a new character that's probably going to be with us through most of all of Phase 4. I mean, this is like our new big character that's entering the arena.
This is like the Iron Man, and very honestly, if you take the Marvel out of it, this is still a really good movie.
Yeah, it really is.
It doesn't have to be Marvel.
It doesn't have to be Marvel. It's a good comic book movie with a lot of good scenes, a lot of good action, some good laughs,
good story,
good performances, good story, amazing special effects. It's a beautiful movie. It's a beautifully shot and crafted movie. The special effects are fantastic, not only in the big action sequences, but some of the more scenic beauty of the movies. The special effects work as well there. So it's a great movie. It's a really well done movie. I'll be curious to see what people think. I remember reading that this movie is tracking to make $90 million this weekend, which is pretty good considering everything that's going on around it. I mean, we were at a premiere tonight. A lot different experience than what we've seen at previous premieres, with like Endgame and even like Rise of Skywalker. We didn't have a full house. It wasn't as, raucous as we're used to, but it was still people there were having a good time. It was
Mhm.
exciting. It was fun. So I mean, hopefully at some point we'll get back to the packed house, the stadium vibe that we're used to. But it was really nice being able to sit down in a theater and finally enjoy a proper MCU movie
with a Barks root beer.
He had a Barks root beer. He was in his glory. I got the what did I get? Pretzel knots or whatever.
You got the pretzel bites as well.
Pretzel bites with the parm garlic.
Thank you, Imagine, for taking over.
Pretty
this
freaking
theater
good
here in Saginaw.
But we want to get everyone's thoughts. We want you to sound off. Let us know in the comments what you think of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm probably going to go see it again this week. I'm going to take the kids to go see it just so I can kind of absorb a lot of stuff. With every Marvel movie, there's always Easter eggs.
Yep.
And there's probably a lot in this movie that I missed that I'm going to be able to go back and just kind of like focus on things, not so much what's going on with the main characters, but things that are going on around them to kind of really take it all in. Make sure you stay after the movie. There are 2 end credit scenes. First one is...
One's got gears turning.
Yeah, the first one is the one that's going to have you like going, okay, let's start pondering what's going on. What does this mean for the future of the MCU and what's going on here? And then the second one is just to kind of reaffirm that 10 Legends or the ring of the Legend of the Ten Rings will return or whatever.
Yep.
So I mean, you kind of get that confirmation, but in a cool way where you're like, oh, I did not see that coming. So we won't talk about that, but stay for those end credit scenes. They're really, really good, especially that first one. It's pretty fucking good. It's going to have people talking for sure. So,
Yep.
Tone, anything else you want to add?
No. Maybe if we got a chance here, we can get just a follow up on a couple of the comments out there. The people I know, there's a few of you out there sound off. Appreciate you popping in here. But honestly, no. Listen, I'm really excited for Phase 4. I think this is a great footstep forward into introducing everybody to what Phase 4 is going to look like and do.
Crash
so
is there. What's up,
really,
Crash?
Really excited to see just this is the platform. This is where we're going forward from, and I just think it's going to get crazier. You know why do you turn it up to 11? Well, because 11's louder than 10. So,
Caitlin asked, "Did you like the movie?" Loved it.
Loved it.
Really enjoyed it.
Hey, what's going on?
Really
Caitlin?
enjoyed the movie. Had a good time with it. So really excited. Again, this sets up Phase 4 perfectly. I cannot wait for Spider-Man, but even more so with what we saw from this, man, Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness is really shaping up. Like, if this is an indicator of where we're going with the MCU, that's going to be the mind-blowing one for sure. I mean, there's obviously going to be some good stuff in Spider-Man, but Doctor Strange is definitely the one that I'm looking forward to the most.
That's right.
So, that's all we wanted to talk about. Great movie. We hope to hear everyone's thoughts about it. Check it out this weekend. And then next Wednesday night over on Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern, Banter and Babble, the proper episode. We'll go in depth a little bit more about what we saw in this movie, talk about some of the more spoilery stuff, get people's thoughts on it. So make sure you're able to go check it out. If you can't, we'll let you know before we start talking about the show. We won't spoil anything for you.
Definitely appreciate the few of you that are able to jump in here just to have us go live here. Check this out. We went live on YouTube just because we want to get the reaction out there. We wouldn't be able to have this on YouTube if we did this on Twitch, and we wanted to try to get that out there. So
we want to get out there and have a conversation and get everyone's thoughts on it, because I feel like this is going to be a movie that is going to definitely drum up some conversation about where the MCU is going. I feel like that's going to be the biggest conversation, how this sets up Phase 4 and the themes and the tone of the movies going forward.
Me?
Not you, the tone of the actual movies, you goofball.
Okay.
So that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate everyone that stopped by in the chat. Everyone over there having a good time talking about what they've seen tonight. For Fanboytone, I'm the Dude79. We'll see you Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. Have a good weekend, everybody. Stay safe.